Ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank everybody for listening, and we want to welcome
is that the end of the show?
From Spreaker.
Oh, I thought that was the end of the show. You're welcoming everybody for listening.
No, welcome everybody from Spreaker for joining us. And now we can tell you, our phone number is what, Mark?
It's 646-595-3275. Or you can call us at 1-800-HEAVEN or 1-800-GOINGTOHELL.
Or you could go in our chat room, and we currently have one person in the chat room.
You gotta be kidding me. Already?
He's been there since the beginning.
Well, person, ask us a question. You don't even have to speak.
Maybe he wants to be anonymous.
Well, he could be anonymous. You know, the Reverend and I enjoy making a fool of ourselves. That's what people want to listen to. Occasionally, we may actually tell you, you may actually learn something. Or we may learn from you.
Or whatever. All right. But most people just like to relax, listen to the show, not be bothered. And that's the end of it. That's
the end. Is that the end of the show?
Yep, that's
the end of the show. We're saying goodnight already? 7 minutes and that's it?
Well,
this may be our shortest show ever.
No cause, no interest. Good night, everybody.
Well, I really think we have to give our listeners a little bit more of a chance that maybe somebody might call in. But think about what I said. And for you people who are on Spreaker, I will repeat myself. In heaven, do we have a corporal body? In other words, if you could choose an age that your soul would be. Now, the soul, mind you, is ageless. But if you die at 100, you don't want to be 100 and be in heaven. Okay, you would certainly want a younger body if in fact you are assigned a body. So, Felix?
My feeling,
Rev, actually?
I'd be glad to be at any age as long as it's there.
As long as it's what?
As long as there's a heaven, I'll take whatever I can get.
Now, you could wind up being 100 years old.
If I'm 100 years old?
You want to go through all of eternity with the body of a 100-year-old man?
Not particularly, but what I'm saying is it's more important to be. I'd be happy at the age I'm at right now.
Well, I think we all would.
Exactly.
Well, wait a minute. Well, there are two ways to look at that. You know, there are many people that don't live to be our age. So, you know, you may say, well, 65, 63, not so bad. But if you recall the Robin Williams movie, What Dreams May Come, it's the whole thing about finding his wife in the hereafter, because she commits suicide and he has to go to purgatory to find her body. And, you know, there's a whole talk about reincarnation, because he says to her at the end, you know, what if we give it another try? You know, I found you in heaven, or, I found you in heaven. What makes you think I won't find you in Jersey? Well, personally, if I had to be reborn, I think Jersey is like your own personal hell. I don't know if I'd want to live in Jersey, but I can think of better places to live. But, as the song says, I love New York. Rev, what do you got to say?
I'll be glad to live in Jersey, New York, Florida. I'm not that picky. I just want to live. It's not a lot to ask for. I'm not looking to be rich.
Well, there's no such thing as rich in heaven.
How do you know?
Everybody's equal.
How do you know?
Because I say so.
You don't count for much. You know,
well, just because you're a reverend doesn't mean that you count, you know.
Absolutely not. Who knows? Now you're Jewish, right?
Doesn't make a difference. Heaven is heaven.
Does the Jewish religion believe in that?
Well, we had a show about that, remember? I thought, and I learned something. I thought that basically Jewish people believe that you make your own heaven and hell on earth, as do some other religions. But I was corrected when somebody, it might have been you, I don't know, but somebody said, well, I can still learn things from you, you know.
It's because it's because I'm the man that knows all. But I can only reveal certain things.
Yes, I know. You are esoteric while I am exoteric.
Correct. So I felt deemed to let you know that there is such thing as heaven in the Jewish religion. Because I know you really wanted that to be.
Well, as I said to my friend this morning, I do believe that there is something after death for me. I do believe that, to me, it makes death more palatable. That when you lower the coffin into the ground, or when you put the coffin into the oven, and you burn it up, and then you collect the ashes, that the soul has already left the body. That the corporal part of the person is gone. It no longer exists.
Well, we definitely know that. I mean,
well, there are people that even doubt that. I mean, people, my friend in Florida.
No, I'm talking about that. If your body's dead, your body's dead. That's the end of your body.
Well, that's the truth.
That's what I'm saying. We all know that. There's no argument with anybody. Atheists,
you know, when you're dead, you're dead.
All agree on that.
Yes.
It's the soul part, the part that you have to have faith in, is where the arguments come in.
That is very true.
But now, Pope Francis says even if you're an atheist, you can still go to heaven.
Well, maybe there are different levels of heaven, like John the Apostle, who wrote Revelation, said there are certain levels in hell. You know, you have your ordinary person who cheats in business, and then, you know, the worst possible place to be is where they put Judas Iscariot as the one who betrayed Jesus. But even then, if you read the Jesus papers, the Judas, well, something, either Jesus or Judas papers. I mean, there's a whole thing that says that it was an arrangement between Judas and Jesus because somebody had to turn him in. What can I tell you?
Well, where do you think heaven is?
If a building has 86 floors, heaven is the 87th floor. Does that make sense?
It doesn't exist.
Well, it's up there somewhere.
How about down deep, next to hell?
Why would heaven be down there?
You're dead. It's whatever, you're imagining.
Yeah, but all they're doing is putting the body in the ground. It has nothing to do with the soul. The soul's floating around already.
I'm talking the center of the earth.
I don't know. Ask Jules Verne.
Neither do I.
Journey to the center of the earth.
I mean, we've had people in space that haven't seen heaven yet. And there's people that have been pretty down, not very deep into the earth, but they've been down a certain amount, and there's no evidence of hell. So where is hell?
Well, they've always, literature and art has always pictured hell as being down there, and heaven as being up there.
Yeah. But there is no down there. So maybe it's like you said, it's a 78th floor building up there. First 12 floors are hell, and the rest are heaven. And everybody enters on the 13th floor. Ooh, number 13. And there they are. You're going down. All the way down to the first floor.
I don't know. That's a little ridiculous.
Well, how ridiculous is it?
Because I'm a traditionalist. Heaven is up there and hell is down there.
But we're down there in the middle of the earth.
We're not in Middle Earth.
No, so where is down there? What do you mean down there?
Is this, the Ring stories, Middle Earth?
I mean, all we're saying is heaven is on top of hell. And purgatory is in the middle. That's the 12th.
Well, I think we should make a distinction because a lot of people really think that purgatory is hell. But according to Greek mythology, purgatory is where all the souls go when you die.
That's 13th floor.
And then from there, it's determined where you go. Whether you go to heaven, whether you go up or down.
Exactly, 13th floor, down or up.
Well, so you're saying now that the 13th floor is purgatory.
Yeah.
It's where everybody goes.
That's just an analogy. It doesn't mean anything.
Well, it wouldn't be a bad idea because in every building that has more than 13 floors, there's never a number 13.
That's right.
I mean, if people want to get superstitious, if you're living on the 14th floor,
you're really on the 13th.
You're really on the 13th floor. It just doesn't say it.
Yep.
It's like if your address is 666. That's supposedly the number of the Antichrist, the devil. I knew a person who lived in Long Beach, and her address was 666, I think it was Olive Street or whatever it was, and she changed it to 668 because there was no 668, so she arranged it with the post office. She didn't want to live in 666.
It's just a number.
Oh, I don't know. Like I said, tell that to the people living on the 13th floor. But that would be a perfect place for purgatory. You're right. That's where everybody would go.
Yep.
We came up with a good idea. Well, ladies and gentlemen, 646-595-3275. Why don't you please call us and give us your opinion? the Rev and I, it is not beneath us to make fools of ourselves. It comes very easily. We've given you our opinions, and as we've said before many times on this show, opinions are like, you know what, everybody has one. So
Noses? Opinions are like noses?
Well, yeah, noses with gunk in it,
Mm.
But that's what opinions are. And you're entitled to your opinion. You don't have to agree with us. Heck, the Rev doesn't agree with me most of the time, and I don't agree with him. The only time I'll agree with the Rev is if he says, time for a trip to Harold's.
Exactly. I don't know if we're going to hear from Melissa today, so I want to give you a quick update on Dan. He is out of intensive care, but he really has to learn how to walk again and all that. So next is he's going to physical therapy for a while, because he's having trouble walking, standing up, stuff like that. So we wish him our best for his recovery.
Amen.
Amen. And
amen.
And I spoke to Dr. Don.
I think we should remind our viewers who Dr. Don is. It's been a while.
Dr. Don used to be one of our favorite callers, and he probably still is if you called in. He's a very well-educated man, a psychiatrist, a psychologist. He's
an educator. He had his own practice. College professor.
Avid reader. Got his PhD from Yeshiva University.
And he lives on the 13th floor.
He does?
Yeah.
Oh. Sorry, I didn't know that. I feel bad for you now, Dr. Don, if you're listening. Anyway, we miss Dr. Don, and once he's settling in Cleveland, we hope to start hearing from him again. Cincinnati, excuse me.
He listens to us on WKRP in Cincinnati. With Lonnie Anderson and the rest of the crew.
That's the only one you have to remember is Lonnie Anderson. The rest are irrelevant, as they say.
Well, it's true.
Anyway, so we're here, and we're waiting, and we're not doing too well. We're on the show already. Well, almost a half an hour. And I'd really like to hear from a caller.
I really think we should tell them, that at the end of the show, we're both getting on that elevator to the 13th floor.
And we're going to decide.
We're going to be back next week to let you know what really happens.
And we're going to decide which one of our listeners is heading which way.
Oh, come on. Now, don't scare anybody. What makes you think the big man or the big woman, depending upon what you want to believe, or which big piece of pasta, according to you?
Or which dude?
That's true. Makes the decision and tells us.
Wow. Unfortunately, we cannot make any kind of decision till it's time for us to go.
We are only the staff. We don't make big decisions like that. And you will excuse me, I am going to perk some coffee. I'll be back in about 5.
Okay, now I'm going to play a song called One More Cup of Coffee.
Come on, Pastor. Thank you. The last one. 1 more cup of coffee. heaven, there is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry for the moment of silence. I hope you enjoyed this song. As I said, this is the Rebellious Rev, and today we are talking about, is there a heaven? Is there a hell? And if there is, where is it? It's not like we have anybody that we know of that went up there and came back. So it's faith. And some of us believe, some of us don't. It's in your heart. There is no way of proving that I know, or any way of disproving it. All I know is we don't know. A lot of people believe there is a heaven and hell. Some people believe there's only a heaven and don't believe in the hell. Some people don't know and are not sure. And there are plenty of people who are sure that there is no heaven and there is no hell. Call us at 646-595-3275 and tell us, do you think there's a heaven? Do you think there's a hell? Where do you think it is?
It's on the 13th floor.
If you're in a chat room, write it in. Where is it? What do you think? You know, we've decided heaven's on the 13th floor. No, actually, purgatory is on the 13th floor of a very large building in the sky. And the 13th floor, you walk in, and then it's decided where you're going. You've been a bad boy, you're going down. You've been a good boy, you're going up. Again, like I said, some people believe that heaven and hell are here, and we're living it right now.
Do we have more than one person in there?
Well, we had somebody come in, somebody go out, but no.
No, huh?
Just one person in our infamous chat room where nobody chats. Anyway,
looks like this is, I'm really disappointed because I thought this was going to be a great topic. This is backed by popular demand. We had discussed this many months ago.
Yeah, but we didn't get into this kind of depth. I think we was one of those shows where we were distracted, and that was the end of it. I think maybe probably Dan or somebody called in, and he decided he wanted to talk about something else, and
Dan always decides he wants to talk about something else.
And we lost our concentration, and we lost the topic.
It's really too bad, ladies and gentlemen, because this is a topic that everybody has an opinion about. You know, if you're an agnostic and you doubt, if you're an atheist and you just don't believe, if you're a member of any one of a number of religions, you know, there's no such thing as a minor religion. You know, if it's your religion, it's a major religion. So, I mean, all we're asking for is your opinion.
And I don't believe every religion does believe in a heaven.
Well, as I said the last time, in Calvinism, they believe in predestination, where from the time you are born, it has already been predetermined, you know, when you are conceived in the womb, whether you're going to heaven and hell. And the kind of life that you live on earth exhibits where you're going to go. If you're a bad person, then it's obvious you're going to hell.
But they still believe in heaven and hell. I'm talking about religions that do not believe in heaven or hell at all.
But what I'm saying is it's predetermined.
I understand that, but I was just saying that there are religions that do not believe in heaven and hell, and you said Calvinism, which is, you know, one that does believe in heaven and hell.
I wasn't saying that they don't believe. I was just naming it as a religion who believes in predestination. That's all.
Do you know any religions that don't believe in heaven and hell?
No. But I guess when we get to the 13th floor, we may find out.
Yeah, well, I believe that some of the Eastern religions may not believe in heaven and hell. I believe the Indians...
There was a terrible wind.
Yeah, it sounds like it. Did you have bad wind?
Did you pass wind?
I know I didn't.
Well, neither did I.
You passed something.
I'm breathing.
You do that all the time. You think that's something new? You should hear yourself.
It's called breathing. Anyway, this is such a great topic for anybody to call in and let us know how they feel. I mean, even if you think, now get the pun here, that we are dead wrong, okay? We're dead wrong. What's your opinion? We want to know. It's 646-595-3275. And if we don't get a caller within the next 20 minutes, that's going to be the show, ladies and gentlemen.
Actually, I'm giving him 10 minutes.
Oh.
Maybe. You know, because after a while, we've expressed our opinions. After that, we want to hear feedback. If there's no feedback, our opinions are not going to change. They're going to stay the same.
And it's a limit to how many times we could say the same thing.
Yeah. Except I'm not, you know, I'm not sure about the whole idea of heaven and hell. But I am sure that while you're on earth, you're definitely being judged. And you better be good.
Who's judging you?
If it's God, some other being, or just fellow mankind. It doesn't really matter, because there are atheists, like Pope Francis said, who could be admitted to heaven. And that's because they're leading a good life and doing other things. And I guess if he says they can go to heaven, I assume they can also be sent to hell. What do you think? He only mentioned heaven, but if somebody can go to heaven, they could just as well go to hell.
Very true.
So, yes, no matter what you believe, you have to do one thing. You always have to basically follow the 10 Commandments. That's the basis of our laws, and that's the basis of freedom of religion and everything else that we believe.
You know, when you think about it, mankind got away pretty lucky, because Moses only brought down, well, once they were combined, 10 commandments by the Lord. But the Lord actually gave Moses 613 commandments to live by. We only stressed 10 of them.
Because you're exoterics.
Well, maybe Moses was esoteric. You know, the people were exoteric.
I mean, there are quite a few...
Well, actually, it was up to the priestly tribe. The tribe, I don't remember which tribe, it was Aaron's tribe. They were the priests, and they were the ones that had to interpret and teach the law.
Yeah. You really wouldn't want to have a lot of the old other commandments in modern age. I don't think they would work out too well.
Well, but we already had a show on that.
But we're just talking about it, that's all. We brought up the other commandments, so...
Well, you brought it up, but it still strays from our topic of heaven and hell.
It does. By the way, did the 10 Commandments mention heaven or hell? I don't think so.
They never mention it, no. But you see, they do tell you, you know, don't covet your neighbor's property, don't covet your neighbor's wife, honor your father and mother, keep the Sabbath day holy, have no other God before the God Almighty, etc., etc. If you follow all of them, then I think you're a shoo-in for heaven.
That's what I said before. It says, and if you're an atheist, you're not following the first two, but otherwise you still follow the others. Any law-abiding citizen that does not sin is abiding by at least 7 or 8 of the commandments.
Right. I mean, if you're, as you said, if you're an atheist and you don't believe, then you can't possibly follow the first one, which is, you know, I am the Lord thy God, thou shalt have no other God before me, no other Lord before me. And then the other one, the second one is, keep the Sabbath day holy. You know, you can keep any day holy. You could, if you're an atheist, one day it could be Tuesday, 1 week, another week it could be Thursday. It doesn't make a difference.
Even if you don't keep one day holy, I don't think it really makes a
difference. Well, you're not gonna have a bodega and work 24/7. You know, you got to take one day off.
I know a lot of bodegas that work 7 days a week. They never have a day off.
Well, I understand that. I know.
And they're usually loyal Christians.
Oh, yes, definitely. Hey, listen, remember a couple of weeks ago we were discussing on our show about the blue laws on Sunday, remember?
Sure.
Businesses, there used to be a time when the Rev and I were little boys when you couldn't open a business on Sunday. You know, businesses were closed.
Actually, the blue laws lasted in New Jersey much longer than New York.
Well, now you know why I don't want to live in New Jersey, you know. Gee, where would Harold's be if there still were blue laws, you know?
Harold wouldn't be working 7 days a week like he is now. Every time I've gone in there, I've seen Harold.
I forgot what he looks like. It's been so long.
Oh, by the way, I was thinking of visiting Dapper Dan at the hospital tomorrow. So Dapper Dan, if you're listening, watch out. I'm coming.
Well, I don't know what I'm doing yet, so you give me a call and I'll let you know what's going on.
Yeah. But that's what I'm thinking. Dan, I mentioned it to Dan, and he seemed a little reluctant. And he asked me to call before I come.
Well, he may be having a bad day. Of course, if he was to see the two of us, how could he have anything but a bad day?
Absolutely right. He'd think he's living hell then.
I mean, we're like somebody's worst nightmare.
646-595-3275. That's our number. You know what I think it is? I think people who are very superstitious when it comes to heaven and hell and death. And a lot of people may be afraid of talking about it.
They're afraid the big guy might hear?
Yeah, they're not going to take a chance. I don't know. I think it's a hard subject. The older you get, it's probably a harder subject to talk about. And if you're young, you really don't think about it that much.
I just thought of something, Felix. This is our religious day, and God is always represented by an old man with a gray beard, etc. What if, and it's a big what if God were a woman? Do you think that God would be more compassionate if God was a woman? It's like the commercial, it's not nice to fool Mother Nature,
Yeah.
I mean, God may be a hermaphrodite, having no sex at all.
Or he just might be a spirit with no form at all.
Well, I think that's what most people really think, because Moses saw a burning bush. He didn't see a person. I mean, all you really need nowadays is a bush to be burning but not consumed, and a ventriloquist like Jeff Dunham, playing the voice of God. Well, actually, you got to go with somebody like Morgan Freeman, or who played Darth Vader again? James Earl Jones. These are the voices you would go with if you were talking about God.
Earl Jones.
I said James Earl Jones.
Oh, you did say, I'm sorry, yeah. James Earl Jones. What a deep voice he had. But anyway,
you certainly wouldn't choose Gilbert Gottfried.
No, I wouldn't choose him at all. Who played
Richard Simmons?
Ooh, I'm God.
I'm sweating to the oldies. Oh boy.
Oh, well, let's see. Guest number 126 has logged in. Any comments about is there heaven? Is there hell? Where is it? We definitely don't have anybody that's come back to tell us.
Yeah, the only person who has talked about coming back was the great Harry Houdini. And if he hasn't been able to come back, you know how difficult it must be.
Well, he may have come back, but he can't make contact with anybody.
That's true too. That's true too.
That might be his eternal hell.
Well, do you remember the Twilight Zone episode with Sebastian Cabot? A petty thief gets killed after robbing a store, and he wakes up and he meets Sebastian Cabot, and he mistakenly thinks that Sebastian Cabot is his guardian angel. Oh, we got a call. 303.
Good evening, caller. And where are you calling from?
Colorado.
Colorado.
Colorado. All right.
The first state to pass medicinal marijuana.
Real marijuana.
The real thing, yes.
No, not just medicinal. And who
Yes, ma'am.
To?
But yeah, there's definitely a hell. We're in it now.
You really think so?
Oh yeah, we're in hell now. That's why we're all here. We're doing our penance so that we can go to heaven.
And
You mean you're doing your penance in Colorado?
No, we're doing our penance on Earth.
Oh, okay.
And what should I call you?
Make up a name.
Ann.
I can call you Ann?
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'll call you Ann.
Ann.
Marianne. Always like that name.
That's Dan's
Okay.
ex-wife. How are you, Ann?
No, Marianne.
Good. How
Marianne.
are you?
Okay.
Well,
Sorry.
if you've been listening, we're really trying to keep this conversation going, and we're very glad that you called, because it might mean that we could stay on the air just a little bit longer.
Yeah, we listened last week. We got cut off short. That was disappointing.
Oh, sorry to hear that. Yeah, the Monday show we cut off completely. We just deleted it. It just we had some technical problems, and
Usually on Monday, we discuss almost anything. Friday is more of a religion day, okay? If we can, we'd like to keep
Okay.
the theme, of in a religious vein, not pushing any one
Okay.
religion, but just discussing a problem and approaching it through the eyes of either a religious person or a non-religious person. And today's topic is great because, when everything ends, do you believe in a heaven and hell? Do you believe that the soul, let's say, as Plato says, goes into a room and then a certain number of years later you are reincarnated, put in another body, and you start life all over again?
the problem is that you don't know that you're starting it over again.
Well, you never go into a body in the middle. You're not a relief pitcher coming into a game in the seventh inning, It's from the time of birth.
So what do you think? Marianne, what's your opinion?
I actually really do believe that we go into that room and we come reincarnated and we get to do it over again until we get it right. And then I think once we get it right, I think we go to heaven.
That's very good, because the Brahmins believe that it's man's curse to be reincarnated, and eventually when you do get it right, you remain as pure energy and pure mind, and there's no reason to be reincarnated again.
Or as in India,
Yep.
you become a cow.
Well, the Reverend eats lots of cows, I have to tell you.
Aren't cows sacred in India?
What?
Cows are sacred in India.
Yes, I know.
That's because they believe people come back as cows.
I could think of a few people who think their mother-in-law might come back as a cow. I don't know. As you can tell, Marianne, we really try to mix some humor into this.
And if there are any Hindus out there and explain the importance of a cow, please give us a call. We'd appreciate it.
I really don't care.
You don't care?
I'm going to eat a cow anyway.
I'd like to know what other people think.
No, but seriously, I think that for a first-time caller, if we were giving out, first-place answers, Marianne hit it right on the head. That we do go into a room, and it's man's curse to be reincarnated and live life again until you get it right, so that you can just go to heaven. It's like being promoted.
Well, listen, I wouldn't mind getting a
I
couple
don't
of
know
tries.
if promotion is heaven, but okay.
Do you feel like you've been here before?
No, I can't say that. I mean, but, if you think about all the things that people talk about, dreams and memories and all this other stuff, that they believe that they've been here before, there might be some validity to that, but I don't necessarily know about that. But the only reason why I actually believe that is because if there really was a heaven, how is it that we continue to, how is it that mankind as a whole, human beings as a whole, continue to do the same things over and over and over again? Why do we still have war? Why are all these problems continuing? Why is it that we never seem to resolve the issues? And I think it's really because of the fact that we just have to keep coming back until we get it right.
Well, I think, waging war is truly the trade of man. From the beginning of time, from biblically, from Adam and Eve, when Cain slew Abel, that's the one thing that people do. You don't need a lesson on how to kill. You need a lesson on how to live together in peace. As we've said, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I agree.
Yeah, as we said many times on the show, we all stem from Abraham, whether it's Judaism, Catholicism, or Islam. Islam and Judaism are half-brothers. They have the same father, Abraham, and different mothers. Isaac's mother was Sarah, and Hagar was Ishmael's mother. And ironically, the only time that Isaac and Ishmael came together was when they buried their father Abraham. But they all live in this area, and when you look on a map, if you watch the news and you see how small Gaza is, how small Israel is, and they've been fighting this, since Israel became a state 66 years ago, but they've actually been fighting this battle for over 2,000 years.
It's true. And I think they're living in their own hell there.
Well, and I think it just justifies my belief that we just keep coming back till we get it right.
Problem is, we don't get it right. We're not learning.
Well, no, that's what she's saying.
Yeah. It's a shame.
And we don't get it right because we're given something, as Charlie said, we're morons, but I think one of the reasons why we don't get it right is because we have this, and I don't want this to come out the wrong way, but free will is a good thing and a bad thing, right?
Yes.
Well, free will is fine as long as you abide by basically the 10 Commandments, or at least 8 of them anyway.
Well, you can't apply free will only to the way you see a solution to a problem. You have to be able to sit down and have an open discussion with somebody so that you could come to some sort of agreement. And that's the one thing that they haven't been able to do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's just there. I think we're seeing it everywhere.
It is everywhere. I mean, now we've got a new plague also.
Well, no, Ebola has been around for a long time, but not even the plague. It's just that even here in this country, you can't have people living together without there being animosities and differences.
Exactly. It's here. I mean, it's Russia. It's the Ukraine. It's North Korea, South Korea, China, Hong Kong. I mean, it's everywhere.
It's true.
Well, I'm
Okay, so am I getting too deep now?
No.
We
Perfect.
like it.
Take a perfect example. On Monday, the Do Nothing Congress will be going home for a 5-week vacation. What do they need a vacation for? What have they done? They haven't done a thing.
Nothing.
They haven't been able to pass any laws, for the common man. They haven't been able to reach an agreement to extend unemployment, raising the minimum wage, improving on our infrastructure, okay? I mean, everything that's being proposed either gets filibustered or they put an attachment or addendum onto the law so that it'll never get passed.
So what do we need?
And how is it that every leader that we choose, whatever country it is, whatever leader we choose, after their first year into election, they just fall into the same bucket as every predecessor that they had?
You know something?
To the pressure.
The answer is really a lot simpler than you think, because everybody coming in is very idealistic, and they have all these ideas, but then they face the reality of whatever Congress they have to face. And if they're faced with a Congress who will not work with him, okay, then you're going to have a president who's going to be frustrated. I mean, look, it's obvious from the way I'm speaking, I'm a Democrat. Not that that means anything, because there have been a lot of good Republican presidents. There used to be a time when you can reach across the aisle, and you had people working together for the betterment of the American people. I really don't think we have that now. I think everybody is interested in his or her own agenda, and that's what they focus on. You know, in Congress, they're elected every 2 years, so for the first year, they're trying to make a name for themselves, and in the second year, they spend a lot of their time fundraising so that they could be reelected again.
I mean, that's all Obama's doing right now is fundraising.
Yeah, but they all do that. He's not the only one.
Yeah, but we're in the middle of a crisis, and he just lollies on. You know, it's
What? What are you talking about?
all the stuff that's been going on, and he was fundraising and never...
So Eisenhower used to play golf. Big deal. You know how stressful this job is? What he's doing is he's trying to sell to the American people his agenda. You don't have to buy into it, but that's what he's doing. And every politician does the same thing.
I agree with you, but when there's a crisis, you have to stop fundraising.
What makes you
and
think
start
that he's...
becoming presidential?
No, what makes you think that he's not trying, that he's not working on these problems?
You have to give the appearance of being presidential, being strong. Right now, Putin is laughing at him, and just about every other country.
Listen, you can't even go... You see, we don't always agree either, Marianne. Putin is pretty much of a dictator. I defy anybody to say anything different. Okay? He's got about 80% approval rating in his country.
They love him.
Yeah, well, if you lived in Russia, would you want to say anything against him?
No, it's nothing to do with that.
All right, so?
People like him because he's improved their standard of living quite a bit. He's made things better for the Russian people. I mean, That's the bottom line. It may not be the way you want it to be, but it's better for the Russians. What do you think, Ann?
I think that it's just going full circle. I think that they are repeating themselves again. I think they're going down that road where they're going to go full circle. Everything
And that's
goes
what he
full circle,
wants.
and exactly.
He wants.
And it's because we don't learn. It's because we as a global humanity, we don't learn.
Well,
we don't learn from the mistakes of the past. We continue to go back to remember the day, and those days. For whatever reason, we don't look at both sides when we remember the day. We remember good times, but we don't remember the times.
The historian and philosopher George Santayana, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. And what we have here is, if you want to talk about Russia, you have, maybe not now, but in the past, you had an unhappy proletariat who tried capitalism. For them, it seemed like, a big flop. It was a disaster. So what you have now is Putin trying to regenerate the idea of an inner circle, call it communism, call it whatever you want, where he is the supreme leader, okay? So he's going back to the origins of the Russian Revolution.
What I think he's trying to do is regain the old Russian strength and the size. They want the old initiatives that broke off, that he wants them back. I'm not saying it's right, but that's what he's trying to do. That's his move.
And what Marion is saying is that we're not learning from the errors of history, and that's why this is happening to us. Plus, the fact that you can't get people to sit down with an open mind and try to work out their differences.
Well, it's...
Which brings us back to the whole thing about we have to keep repeating ourselves, and it brings us back to the Congress that's in place right now, and it's just one vicious cycle. And when are we going to stop the cycle? We won't until we all learn.
Yeah, and my point is, that's where Mark and I disagree. I'm a Democrat, but I think the president is not bending it all either. I don't think either side is compromising.
Well, in a way, Marianne, what you just said leads us to today's topic, because you say it's cyclical, and we're repeating the same mistakes, and we're all going to be dead before these things get resolved. So, which brings us to today's topic. Do you believe in a heaven or a hell? Where are we going to go?
The other thing is,
what do you... We're just going to keep...
Yeah.
That's right.
I think we just keep coming back.
That's it. Because we're gluttons for punishment.
Where is heaven?
Yep, which means we're already in hell. We're just trying to figure out how to get to heaven, only we can't seem to figure that out.
Where is heaven?
Well, I think
heaven is that euphoria, that free soul or free spirit.
Which brings us all the way back to medicinal marijuana.
No, Colorado's not medicinal. Colorado is pleasurable marijuana. You could just go buy it for pleasure.
I know, but it for some people it sounds better if you say, I got a backache. Can I have some?
Not in Colorado. There's lines around the block.
I know.
It's actually creating all kinds of problems here too, which I don't know if you guys hear it, but our car accident rate on the highways is up. Our runaway teens and our homeless rate is up. I mean, everything's up because of it. The kids run away from home in states where it's not legalized, and they come to Colorado, and then they don't have anywhere to live. And it's the 18 to 22-year-old homeless rate is up here in Colorado. Car accidents or everything's it's not a positive outcome, that's for sure.
You're right. That was one of the things that they never took into account. When somebody is stopped for drunk driving, you can give them a breathalyzer test, but there is no test if somebody is high on marijuana. So
right.
how do you legally rein in the people and pass the laws? On one hand, you're getting a lot of revenue, which is good for Coloradans as far as maybe infrastructure or however the governor wants to use it. But on the other hand, as you said, you have these other problems that have to be addressed.
Now, question for you. Are these high-speed accidents or low-speed accidents?
Both. And actually,
people are
the
getting
death
killed.
rate from Yep, the death rate from high-speed accidents is up, and the low-speed accidents are up as well.
Yeah, I don't know. It's an experiment. Are we going to learn from it again?
Will we?
I don't know. According to Mary Ann, and the more I listen, and the more you think about it, no, we're not.
Right, because you got more and more states now looking at the legalization of marijuana. So, no, I don't think we are.
Well, I think in the long run, if you're going to have it in one state, you got to have it in all the states. It's not.
I wonder if they were wrong in passing a wholesale law saying marijuana is okay. Maybe they just should have stayed with the medicinal end of marijuana for people who have cancer, who have MS, debilitating illnesses where they have no pill has given them any relief. Okay. For these people, it's a definite yes. Maybe not so much for the casual smoker.
I think the problem was they didn't test the medicinal part of it long enough to make an educated decision. I think that they went from medicinal to free, just way too fast.
Do you think that the strain of marijuana that they're growing now is much too strong?
Yeah, and there's another strain of it that they grow specifically for medicinal purposes, and that one has a lower rate. But that's not what the society wants, right? That's not what they want. They don't want that stuff.
Maybe they should have stayed with that.
Right.
Just enough to help people who have these terrible illnesses.
Now, I'm going to tell you, in Switzerland, they have a different approach to drugs. They have clinics that are run by the government, and you can get anything you want in those clinics, but you have to, it has to be administered at the clinic, and then you can leave. And they have no drug problems at all.
Right.
Well, as long as the government is giving it to you, there's no reason for the crime rate to go up.
Exactly.
Because,
Yeah.
and you're using it under a doctor or a nurse's care.
Exactly.
It's being administered, so you're not going to have any overdoses.
Yeah, and and the crime factor is not there anymore. So they have very low crime. You don't have the drug pushers, the smugglers and everything else. It doesn't exist.
Well, Europe has always been ahead of us.
I think the other part of that is the fact that, our country as a whole, we have a huge addiction problem. So, we look at Switzerland and think, oh, we could do that. But the problem is that we have such an addiction problem in this country to any kind of prescribed medicine that, we would have to figure out how we fix that too, because, you look at the number of people that are right now, arrested or in rehab centers because of prescription pill addiction.
That's right. It's not just actors and actresses anymore. It's not just sports figures.
Right.
It's anybody.
Right.
It's never been just actresses or sports sports people.
But that's what you used to read about. Now
only because
it could be an ex neighbor.
It was always your neighbor. The only difference is the famous people. That's a news story. Your neighbor would not be a news story. They wouldn't talk about him. I don't think it's changed. It's always been bad.
I think at the end of the day, for us to actually make a decision like that, we would actually have to, a lot of things about our country as a whole would have to change, and I don't know if we actually could handle it.
I remember...
But there again, we'd have to learn from history, right?
It's true. And I remember when I was a teacher, and I was teaching morality, moral dilemmas, I would give my students a situation, and I would say, okay, how would you solve this moral dilemma? My friend, who happened to be an assistant principal, said to me, but whose morality are you using as a judge? And I would look at him, and I would say, Jimmy, morality is morality. It's just the right thing to do. It has nothing to do with whether you're an American Indian, whether you're Jewish, whether you're Christian, whether you're black, whether you're a Muslim. The right thing to do is the right thing to do.
It's not true.
Oh. Okay, why?
Well, because I have to say...
I hope you people are enjoying this.
I have to say that. I can't agree with you. Listen, if there's a town that's full of Looney Tunes, and you come in there and you're straight and normal, you're the odd one with the wrong morals.
Yeah, but if children are taught from a very young age, right and wrong, and it's reinforced at home and in school, then I think I'd like to believe that they'll make moral choices, the proper moral choices.
Well,
that's all.
Yeah, but I think we're going back to the full circle thing, right? What are the proper moral choices? Is it the Bible? Is it the Torah? Is it the Quran? Those are all man-made interpretations.
No, it's what I say.
What's the golden,
it's what I say.
The golden rule? What is it? What is the actual right moral choice?
Well, something, the one thing that we all seem to go back to, which applies to almost every religion, are the Ten Commandments. Okay?
Yep.
Not saying you have to believe in the same God, okay? But just in spelling out things that are proper, things that you should do. I'm not talking about the Code of Hammurabi, where it says if you steal something with your right hand, you're going to cut off the right hand. Or if something happens and you blind someone so they cut out your eye. That's ridiculous. It would have to be applied to the society in which you live. But if everybody grew up adhering to look, I'm like John Lennon. It's like the song Imagine, okay? That's the kind of world that I imagine. And I remember when I was in therapy, my therapist used to say to me, you look at the world through rose-colored glasses. And I said, gee, so did my dad. And it's not too bad being my dad. That's the way I would like to live my life. I'm not looking to screw somebody before they screw me.
Yep.
What can I say? And
Yep.
now you're right. We have gone full circle.
Just like life. Exactly.
It's like a Lion King.
Anyway, we've...
The circle of life. Mary Ann, we want to thank you. I hope that, we hope that you will listen again, that you will call up and, help us get through the show, give us your opinion, and like we said, you don't have to agree.
Does your husband want to make a comment?
No, we do really want him to make comments. You don't want him to make any comments, you know
Of
that.
course I do.
You mean he doesn't agree with anything we've said, huh?
Oh, no, he does. He does. Some of it.
Well,
Some of it he agrees with.
Tell
Some
him-
of it he doesn't.
actually, he's probably
My
listening.
husband's...
What was that?
Yeah, he's right here. He's tossed
Come on.
between Republican
We'll soften
and
him
Democrat.
up.
He doesn't know what he is today, so...
Well-
he's tossed between whether or not there's a heaven and a hell. He's tossed between all of it.
Well, tell him that when I die, I'm coming back, and I'm going to let everybody know.
Just like
Does
Houdini.
that work?
I'm gonna put it on my tombstone. It's gonna have,
I'll be
my
back.
my date of birth and the date I died, and it's gonna say like Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'll be back. Okay,
Yep.
Or like Houdini. I'll be back.
that's true. Anyway, thank you so much for calling. We greatly appreciate it, and please listen and call again.
Have a good
All
night.
right?
And you as well. Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mary Ann from Colorado, and we really appreciated her call. And she had some good things to say as far as these things being in a cycle, and we tend to go through this cycle. And you saw how the Rev and I disagree with each other all the time. And I have to
That's
tell you...
we go through a full circle all the time.
That's right. And I have to tell them, this is not put on, because we don't agree and see eye to eye on a lot of things. But isn't that what the world is? The fact that the Rev and I could sit down and we can discuss these things, why can't countries, why can't people negotiate a peace, learn to live together? You have to give a little to get a little. And I think if the reward is going to be peace, it's well worth the sacrifice. Imagine what it would be like for children to grow up without worrying about a bomb, okay? Without worrying about going with your friends to the park and being abducted by somebody.
Imagine.
And imagine what it would be like if there was a heaven and hell.
Exactly.
So,
Anyway,
if there's anyone else, okay, our number once again is 646-595-3275. And if you listen to Mary Ann and her exchange with us, you can tell and see that we're not going to bite anybody's head off. We certainly give you enough time to express your opinion. We might agree, we might disagree, but that's what makes this show go. Rev?
I agree with you. I think we've had a long, productive night. Everybody enjoyed themselves. I see people logging in out of the chat room, but nobody's talking.
Chat room looks full.
Well, no, just one person.
Oh,
They just keep logging in and out.
logging in and out?
Or maybe there's two.
Well, I really wish they would at least send us a question. You know, you don't have to speak from the chat room. Just type in a question, and we will try to address your question. You know, we've got at the most, we have about 30 minutes left. All right? We certainly have enough time to have a little discussion going.
Well, we'll see what happens. I think people just go into the chat room when they're listening to us, not even really following the chat room. That's what I think really happens.
Well, we're two friendly souls, you know.
Speak for yourself.
You're not friendly?
I'm not friendly.
Oh, okay.
I'm not nice. But I am lovable.
Well, your cat loves you. Let's put it that way.
What?
Your cat loves you. Said you're lovable.
Yes, my cat loves me. That's true. My wife might even love me. I'm not sure.
That on any given day. Well, that's you and I together.
On a good day.
Hey, listen. My younger son actually said, "Have a good show tonight." And I said to him, "Well, maybe one of these days you'll actually call in or listen."
Yeah, how does he know we're going to have a good show? He never listens.
That's very true. I stopped sending him the podcast.
I spoke to your other son, Jonathan, and he said, "I'll think about it."
I wish he would listen too. Jonathan has a lot of good things to say.
And I think he could start his own little blog on horror movies.
Well, you know, I'm telling you, he saw the new Marvel movie today, and he loved it. You know, Jonathan is of the belief that you don't listen to what paid critics have to say. If you want to see a movie, you see a movie and you become your own critic. Don't let somebody else tell you what you should see and what not to see. And Jonathan is extremely knowledgeable when it comes to things like this. You know, if I had to put my money on somebody, I'd put it on him.
But he still gives his opinions, right?
Well, he'll give his opinion. He'll allow you room enough to disagree with him. But, you know, technically, from a technical point of view, he's always spot on. You know, I told him that a lot of people go to the movies, I think, because it's a couple of hours where the reality of the problems of the world don't face you. You're watching a movie, you like the story or whatever. At least that's why I go to it, to be entertained. Jonathan goes, aside from being entertained, Jonathan goes as his own critic. And if he sees things that are wrong, you know, technically wrong, and he'll tell you what they are.
Well, you know, a lot of critics even will tell you, I didn't like the movie, but if you're a Brad Pitt fan, give it extra 2 stars, you'll love it, or whatever. You know, it's...
Well, we all have our favorite actors and actresses, and we try to give them the benefit of the doubt when they make a movie that, well, maybe it's not something we would ordinarily see, you know.
Like you always say, what do you say about opinions?
They're like, you know what, everybody's got one.
Exactly.
It's our religious show, I can't say that. If it was Monday, I would say it, you know.
Well, just say,
okay.
Donkey.
Opinions are like the representatives that we have in Congress. As far as being jackasses, everybody has one. That's the polite way of putting it. But ladies and gentlemen, you know, we have about 25 minutes left. If somebody really has something they want to say, 646-595-3275.
And remember what our show is about today. Our show is about, what is it about?
Why don't you find that guy?
There is no heaven. There is no hell. There is only this world and its dark reflection. And we do not know in which of the two worlds we are.
Are we in the dark reflections?
I don't
Are
know.
we?
They paid me a lot of money to make that
Yes.
recording.
Hey, listen, or is there heaven or hell? I mean, that's basically what we want to know. What do you think?
It's
Atheists.
a simple yes
We
or
want to
no
hear from
question.
you also. There's nothing wrong with being an atheist.
But you know, it's a question that all of us have to face once in our life, because you never face it twice.
Well, actually, some people think they face it twice.
I think those people who maybe are imbibing on that stronger marijuana.
No, people that have near-death experiences think they've done it. I mean, I don't know, and I really don't want to know. I don't want to have a near-death experience, but hey, listen, if there's a chance there's a hell, and there's a chance there's a heaven, wouldn't you rather go to heaven? So,
You see, that's, when Marianne called, I'm glad you brought that up again. When Marianne called, I was talking about a Twilight Zone episode where the gentleman's name was Mr. Valentine, and the person who he thought was his guardian angel was Sebastian Cabot, a rather rotund British actor from the 50s and 60s, okay? And the guy couldn't lose. He would go to a casino and he'd win. He'd play pool and he'd make fantastic shots. And when he questioned Sebastian Cabot about what did I ever do to wind up in this place, and he told Sebastian Cabot, well, this is heaven, isn't it? And Sebastian Cabot said, no, this is the other place. And why is it the other place? Because all his life he was a loser. So his personal hell was that he could never lose again. He wins at everything. And you know that when you're given everything and you never have to work for it, you don't appreciate it. And that was his own personal hell.
huh, interesting. I mean, it's nice to win for a while, but I think after a while you get tired of it also.
It's like you try to impress this beautiful girl. Okay, ordinarily in real life, she wouldn't even look at you. But you become the person that she concentrates on and she fawns over, and then you play poker and you win every hand, and you play pool and you win every hand, and you go to the dog races and you win every race. After a while, as you just said, it's no fun anymore.
Exactly. So that's his personal hell, as
That's
they
his
say.
personal hell.
And as our previous caller said, she thinks that we're in our personal hell now.
Well, that's what Marianne said.
Yeah,
We seem to
exactly.
be. Yeah. Because we haven't yet learned how to change. We constantly revert back to making the same mistakes over and over. And as I said to her, as George Santayana said, those who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it. The only thing we hope that we've learned is that we can't afford a World War III. In a nuclear world, we can't afford to have a World War III, because when somebody presses that button, that's the end of humanity as we know it.
Then we're all going to wind up in heaven or hell.
Or the 13th floor.
Or the 13th floor.
Exactly. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, that's where we're going to end it. It's Well, by my estimation, it's about 10:35. I don't think we're going to get any more callers, so, Rev,
I just want to see, we've got like 3 people in the chat room.
Yeah, but if they're not going to send us a
Let's
question...
see, let's give them a chance. Let's say the 3 people in the chat room.
So what are we supposed to...
Any opinions, any ideas?
Well, what are we supposed to do? Wait around for them to decide to type in a question?
No, wait a couple of seconds, that's all. I'm just giving him the opportunity before we shut
I'm going to go
down.
get a refill of coffee.
All right. And
let's have another cup of coffee. Yes, let's have a cup of Nescafe.
All right. Well, listen. So we're going to go ahead and play our last song of the evening. And we're going to sign off with this song. So on behalf of Dr. Mark and the rebellious Rev, I will say buenas noches, good night, dobranoc, hasta la vista, shalom, and we'll see you, I guess, on Monday when it's the Coffee Club with Felix and Doc. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to play a song, and we're going to end the show with this song. Thank you.